All right, today we're going to talk about something called servuction. Now stick with me here, because this idea, it's a totally different way to think about service. And honestly, it might just be the key to understanding why dealing with so many companies can be, well, so frustrating. Let's dive in.
I mean, you know the feeling, right? You've been there. Stuck on hold for what feels like an eternity with customer support, or maybe you're wrestling with some clunky IT service, and you just get that feeling that the company totally misses the point. It's this universal headache. But what if I told you that all of this frustration boils down to one single fundamental mistake in how we even think about service?
And this right here, this is the perfect way to put it. We're trying to shape water with a hammer. I mean, think about that. For literally decades, we've been taking this old-school factory floor logic, the hammer, all rigid and predictable, and we've been trying to apply it to modern services, which are fluid and dynamic, like water. It just doesn't work. It's a total mismatch, and that's exactly why so many things feel so broken.
You know, the word service itself has become this weird paradox. We throw it around for everything, don't we? Customer service, IT services, managed services. But the more we say it, the blurrier it gets. It's almost meaningless. And this isn't just a nitpick about words. That vagueness, it leads to some serious real-world problems, inefficiency, broken processes, and yeah, you guessed it, really frustrated customers.
Okay, so how do we actually fix this mess? Well, this is where the work of Huppertz comes in, and he proposes a pretty radical shift in how we think. It all starts by drawing a massive, bold line in the sand between two totally different worlds. On one side, you've got the world of making physical stuff. He calls that production. And on the other, you have the world of delivering services. And that's Servuction.
So let's break this down. On the production side, it's pretty straightforward, right? You're making physical goods, stuff you can put on a shelf. The value is baked right into the product. But then you look at Servuction, and it's a whole different ballgame. A service is used up the very instant it's created. The value isn't just handed over. It's actually co-created with you, the consumer. You're not a bystander. You're a critical part of the whole process.
And look, this isn't just some new corporate buzzword somebody made up. This idea goes back. It was first pinpointed by a couple of French scientists, Pierre Eiglier and Eiglier Langeard. And they put it so simply, it's beautiful. Production is making things, servuction is rendering services. That distinction is everything. It shows that servuction isn't just a little subset of production. No, it's a completely separate discipline. It has its own rules, its own logic.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how does this actually work in practice? Well, the entire servucultidation model is built on 5, and I mean radical, truths. And these truths are going to challenge pretty much everything you thought you knew about what it means to provide a service.
All right, get ready for this, because the first one is a real mind bender. Thesis number 1, the provider is not the value creator. Let that sink in. Their only job, their sole responsibility, is to create the precondition for value to happen. Let's use an example. A taxi driver. Their job is to get you from point A to point B. That's the service. But you, the passenger, you're the one who creates the value by using that ride to get to your super important meeting on time.
And this is why it's so important to get the roles straight, especially in a business setting. You've got the service customer, that's the manager, the person who signs the checks, but then you have the service consumer. That's the employee who actually has to use the service every single day. So many companies get this wrong. They focus on making the paying customer happy, but they completely ignore and frustrate the consumer who's actually trying to get value out of the thing.
Which leads us right into the second truth. And this one finally gives us a definition of service that actually makes sense. A service isn't just some vague action or a bunch of steps in a process. No, it is a concrete, measurable result. More specifically, it's a state change to something called a service object. Or, in plain English, a service object. And here's the key. It's something that belongs to you, the consumer.
And it turns out these service objects basically fall into 4 universal buckets. First up, you've got Leben and Leben. That's German for body and life. Think a haircut, a taxi ride. Simple enough. Second is Hab and Gut, which is basically property and possessions, so getting your car fixed or your clothes dry cleaned. Then there's Recht and Anspruch, rights and claims. This is stuff like renting a car or filing an insurance claim. And last, Daten and documents, or data and documents. Sending an email, saving a file. See the pattern? In every single one of these, the service is the change that happens to something you own or control.
So these 3 and 4 really just flow logically from this. Think about it. If a service is a change to your stuff, then who's the most important person in the whole equation? It's you, the consumer. You are the absolute center of the universe here. Nothing happens until you say so. You're the one who kicks off every single service transaction. This is a huge deal. It means services are pulled by the consumer when they need them, not pushed at them by the provider.
Okay, this next bit is setting up the final and maybe the most powerful truth of all. You've all seen these service level agreements, right? The SLAs. They promise stuff like 99.5% uptime. Sounds great on paper, but let's be real. If you're one of the unlucky people in that tiny 0.5% window when the service goes down, for you, is it a 99.5% success? No way. For you, it's a 100% total failure. The provider's happy little statistic means nothing to your personal reality.
And that brings us to the fifth and most hardcore truth of them all. This quote here is in German, but the translation is just perfect. It says, "After my service request, there are no excuses. Either the service was rendered or it failed. That's it. It's binary, black and white, all or nothing. The provider either delivered the complete, promised state change or they failed, period. There is no almost. There is no pretty good. It either worked or it didn't."
So you see, these 5 truths, they're not just some lofty philosophical ideas. They actually lock together perfectly to create a really coherent, really practical system, a system for designing and delivering services that actually work from the only perspective that matters, the consumers. So what's the provider's job in this new world? Well, you can think of it like a service triathlon. It's not a one-and-done race. It's 3 things they have to do constantly. First, they have to establish readiness, always be ready to go. Second, they have to manage capacity, making sure they can handle the demand when it comes. And third, they have to execute transactions, and I mean flawlessly perform that state change the second the consumer asks for it.
So why should you care about any of this? Why does this all matter? Because this whole Servuction idea forces a massive, fundamental shift in focus. It tells companies, hey, stop obsessing over your internal processes, your busy work, how hard you're trying. Instead, it forces them to focus on the one and only thing that actually matters, guaranteeing that external result for the consumer.
And that really leaves us with one last, powerful question to think about. I want you to apply this to your own work, whatever it is you do. Look at it through this Servuction lens and ask yourself, what is the specific service object I'm changing? And more importantly, what is the precise, undeniable state change that I am willing to absolutely 100% guarantee? Think about it.